Hello everybody and welcome back. This video is about my thoughts so far in US Open, and the first round has just finished. So we have seen some pretty upsets in these first rounds. Like I told you in my video, this is a very unpredictable Grand Slam, the most unpredictable of them all. But one thing is for sure, Novak Djokovic and Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer always delivers in the first rounds in every Grand Slam. It doesn't matter which surface they play on. We just saw Novak Djokovic on cruise control in the first round against Spaniard Carballes Baena, where Novak was just a little bit under pressure in the first set, but it was no doubt that he was the superior player in that match. He showed why he's the world number one, why he's the best since Wimbledon last year. And one thing is for sure, when you count Roger, Rafa and Novak, they will always go deep in every Grand Slam. And in Roger's case, he's on that level too. We saw the upset in Wimbledon last year against Kevin Anderson in the quarterfinal, and in the fourth round against the journeyman John Millman, who met Rafa yesterday. And then Federer lost in the fourth round in Australian Open to Stefanos Tsitsipas. But otherwise, Roger, Novak and Rafa are the most consistent guys on the tour. You can always count on them. They are household names. It's safe to count them. And why do we always count on them? Because of their level, their consistency level. Even their low level are so high that they can compete. And even if they don't have their best day at work, they still win these tight and tough matches without playing the normal game. Sometimes they play by winning ugly. I don't mean ugly that they do 70 unforced errors and win the match. They can do many mistakes and still win their matches. That's their level. But anyway, before we talk about the upsets and all the other next-gen players, we take the big three as usual first, so we know that Novak's performance was just a normal round one match for him, but he always gets better the deeper he goes in the tournament, so there was no question about that victory. And if you look at the second seed, Rafael Nadal, who just won against John Millman in three sets, you can say this: when Rafael Nadal plays against these low-ranked level players, especially a journeyman like John Millman, he doesn't give them any single chance to come into the match because his level is so high. Best player, ball in, ball out. His consistency level, he never makes mistakes, barely makes mistakes and unforced errors. And he always puts his opponent on pressure, especially when he uses their weak side. And in John Millman's case, they are like three dimensions between those two guys. Because yes, Millman is a tough guy to beat. Even he loses many matches, he doesn't surrender that easy. But a player like Rafa, he can compete with a consistent player like Rafa. When he won against Roger, it was the opposite. Roger gave him the match by making around 70 unforced errors. So that's the reason why Roger lost to him. It wasn't that he was a better player than him. But anyway, Rafa did his job always like he does against his low-ranked players. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It was the outcome was pretty obvious in the beginning. I was counting the games that Milman was gonna take. I thought he was gonna take less than 10 games, and I think I was right. I forgot exactly the results, but I think it took 7 or 8 games against Nadal. But anyway, solid performance by Rafa as usual. Nothing special particularly. He did his job as he always does, and he will go deep. And Roger met this qualifier guy from India, Nagal. And you know, when qualifiers enters a big stage like Grand Slam, they don't have anything to lose. And that's why they play more relaxed. They don't have nothing to show. The pressure is on the opponent. In this case, it was Federer. Federer had the early break, but Nagal broke back and then broke Federer again to win the first set. But after that, it was a one-man show. Federer was a slow starter, but then he pushed this Indian guy away from the court. I think I didn't saw the match, but what I've heard, Indian guy was okay. He played okay. He had his moments in this match. He got his fame now. And can he break into the top 100? That's another question. But good luck for him in the future. And Roger will advance now to the second round. And from now, everything's going to be a little bit more difficult for Roger. But his high level, his consistency in Grand Slams, his mindset will take him at least to quarterfinals, I think. But after that, we have to see. And now about the big upsets that we saw in the first round. We saw 4 top 10 ranked players lose their first matches. It was Dominic Thiem, RBA, Khachanov and Tsitsipas. 3 of them actually wasn't a big surprise in my opinion. The one I was 100% sure of these guys was Dominic Thiem and RBA. Khachanov's consistency level I don't trust, and neither Stefano Tsitsipas. The young Greek has been away from form in like 3 months now. Since the clay court season, he has totally disappeared. He lost in the first round in Wimbledon against Fabiano. He lost now in the first round in US Open against Rublev, a tricky player who has been in good form lately. And Rublev got his revenge from the ATP Next Gen semi-final in Milano from 2017. And Rublev is looking good, but he's a guy that also is not that consistent. So he will maybe win 1 or 2 more matches, and then I think he's out of this tournament. But Tsitsipas, this guy with a huge game, who reminds me of Federer, who is one of the most hyped young players, is totally off the map. I guess we can give him that because he's still young. He has time to change and perform, but he seems tired after the clay court season. That's my opinion. So I think the rest of the autumn will be a disaster for him if he doesn't rest or do something unusual. But it's like that in tennis. It's hard to keep this level that Novak, Rafa and Roger keeps. And that's what makes them so unique. And Karen Khachanov, I think some of you got fooled by his performance in Cincinnati, where he played good but lost to Daniil Medvedev. Because actually this year, like I told him in my previous video and the videos before, I was gonna pick him as a quarterfinal candidate, but in my reaction video, in my preview video, if you remember, I changed my mind there and put Schwartzman instead of Khachanov, because what have Khachanov done this year? What have he done since Paris last year when he won his first Masters title? Nothing. He have lost to a bunch of dudes that he should win. And if you look at the ranking, sometimes the ranking lies. Unfortunately, the ranking lies. It's just the top 3 that you can count on. Otherwise, the rest is a very inconsistent player, and some of them can step up when they feel the pressure in the Grand Slam, and it's very hard to live in the shadow of the big three. That's the problem. That's their biggest problem. When they enter the Grand Slam, they already, I think most of them lose the battle before they enter, because they know, Novak is here, Rafa is here, Roger is here also. What can I do to beat these guys? Maybe I can beat one, maybe if I'm very lucky I can beat two, but if I'm very unlucky I have to beat all of these guys, and that's the problem. Look at the past generations that has tried to dethrone these guys, like Berdych, Nishikori. Some extent, some of them have succeeded, like Wawrinka. Cilic won his first Grand Slam in first and only in US Open 5 years ago. We have Raonic. We have plenty of players that has been here in the top for a very long time, but they fail to deliver. It's just Wawrinka, Cilic, and of course Andre Murray and Del Potro that has come in between these three giants. So if you look at the history and the facts, they're not gonna go anywhere near soon. If you wanna see a tennis court without these three gentlemen, it will take you at least, I think, another 3 years. Roger will not continue forever, not Rafa, and not Novak either. But as it looks now, it puts a big question marks on the others, because many of the new next gen players, they play good in lower ranked tournaments, 500s, 250s. Sometimes they go deep in the Masters. If they are lucky with the draw, they can reach 4th round quarterfinals in the Grand Slam. That's what I have seen the last years, and probably I will continue to see that more. But for the sake of tennis, I hope there's a change pretty soon. At least in year 2021, I want to see at least 3 different Grand Slam winners, but maybe that's too much to ask. Team's performance yesterday against the Italian dude Fabiano, who is a great ball player. He has a lot of tennis in him, but he plays like day and night in tournaments. So the question is, can he keep this level for at least a couple of more matches? Then he has done a good result in this tournament, but I'm not counting on that. Team was, like I read in social medias, and a good friend of mine told me that he has been sick, he had the virus, and he isn't in full shape. Probably that's true, but he played awful in this match against Fabiano. Even I don't want to take anything away from Fabiano. I expect more from a player like Dominic Thiem. He should be at least a quarter finalist in every Grand Slam if you look at his high level, but his low level is unfortunately not that good, and that's why he loses these matches that he should win. And this is not a claim that is his best surface. He has only won one hardcore titles, a big hardcore title, I think, and most of his titles are on clay. I think 3 or 4 of his titles are not on clay. But anyway, Dominic Thiem is not in full shape. We can clearly see that. He lost to a better man, but mostly he lost because he shot himself in the foot. He wasn't 100% in this match, and you can't win in Grand Slam if you're not 100%, that's for sure, even if your name is Dominic Thiem. Alright? And then RBA, Roberto Bautista Agut, who I saw as a potential upset alert, a guy that could threaten some of the big names in the top draw ranking, but he failed in this tricky match against Kukushkin, who is a solid player. And what can we say? The match was tough, but when I looked at the stats, I reacted on one thing. In this 5-set match, Roberto Bautista Agut only made 25 winners, and 10 of them was aces. So that shows that he's just another great ball striker from the baseline without lethal weapons. He's a okay mover. He's not a super fast mover on court, but 5 set and 25 winners, 15 total. If you take out the 10 aces he did, that's not okay. He should have done some more, and probably that was one of the keys that he lost the match, because the ball was on play. The ball went back and forth, but eventually you make those mistakes. You have to have weapons in tennis. Otherwise you will just be an ordinary, okay professional player. You have to have weapons like Rafa's forehand, like Novak's returns, like Federer's first strike tennis, like Wawrinka's backhand, like Dominic Thiem's backhand, and etc, etc. You have to have special qualities. If you're an all-round player, you can reach quarters, but a normal all-round player don't win big titles. That I can tell you. And Khachanov, like I told you, he's way under the radar now. Don't expect too much from him. Don't put so much pressure on him. He will take his time, and by the next year, if he hasn't raised his level, he will probably be just another of these next-gen players that don't deliver. But not all of them are hopeless, of course. We have names that can win matches against the big three, but will they win in Grand Slam? That's another question. And then you have Fabio Fognini, who also lost, another top-ranked player who lost against Rylo Opelka. And on the advance, that match was pretty hard because he doesn't lose his serve so easy, Opelka. And the Italian magician wasn't as his normal level, as has not been since the clay court season either. And Opelka did a good match. I actually watched the second half of the match, and Fabio Fognini wasn't super consistent in that match. Opelka did his job. He played good under the circumstances, because he has all he's got is his serve, in my opinion. He's okay from the baseline, but not deadly. And then we have some household names that have advanced to the second round. We have Kei Nishikori, of course, Mr. Quarterfinal man. We have Stan Wawrinka. We have Grigor Dimitrov. We have Jon Isner. And Alexander Zverev, who barely went through to the second round. The problem with Zverev, he makes it difficult for himself. He was 2 sets up, and then he started to make these mistakes. He's losing focus. He does these horrible mistakes. Sometimes something locks in his head, because if you look at his Grand Slam matches, he doesn't win them easy, 3-1 or 3-0 in straight sets. He always have to make it difficult for him, because when he has these tough matches against lower ranked players, he is the better player in the match. But he gives his opponents opportunities to come into the match, and his opponents are not afraid of him. He was the super hyped player last year, and since he came on the tour, but now he's not that anymore in my level. He was going to drop out more and more in the ranking soon. And like I told you, his service, second serve, and his serve motion, and his serve in general are not that. He has something to work on. His backhand is super. He has hard ground strokes that can penetrate the courts and make winners from every angle, but it's in his head. Unfortunately, it's in his head. And another surprising thing, we have 4 Italian dudes in the second round. I'm not sure that they are gonna pass the second round, but we have Matteo Berrettini, we have Sonego, we have Fabiano, and Lorenzi. Those 4 Italian guys has played good tennis in this tournament. Berrettini, a guy that many have high hopes on, he can upset someone and reach the third or fourth round. He has a huge serve and a huge forehand, and if that works, he can go deep in this tournament. And another thing I was thinking about was Tsitsipas' performance. He made around 70 unforced errors. 70, and only created 45 or 47 winners, but his unforced errors number was super high in that match against Rublev. And you can't win matches if you do around 70 unforced errors, and most of them were from his backhand, what I've heard. I didn't see the highlights because it's hard to find good highlights now. The US Open's own channel shows like two and a half minutes of highlights from a match. It's hard to make a good judgment from that. But anyway, the big three delivers again. The next gen players are in the shadow again, in their shadow. They will have a tough time to compete with them. So the deeper we go in this tournament, we will see who's gonna stand there. And of course, I have to say something about Daniil Medvedev, who had the easy first match against the Indian guy who I can't pronounce. I'm not gonna even try. Somebody can help me if you want. But anyway, Daniil will have these 2 or 3 matches that he should win, and then we have to see what he's made of against Novak Djokovic in a potential quarterfinal. And Medvedev is looking rock solid. And of course I have to say something about Shapovalov, the guys that I think has one of the worst serve returns on tour in the top 100. I haven't seen all of the top 100 players, but of the top 40 I can say that he's one of the worst returners. But he had a pretty easy match against his countryman, another next gen player that some people are hoping that's gonna win Grand Slam, Aliassime, who he won in straight sets, 6-1, 6-1, I think in the third set went to 6-4. So Shapovalov won the first match, but we all know Shapovalov. He barely makes 2 good matches in a row. But this can be the change. Who knows? He is also a hype next-gen player who nobody talks about anymore. They just see him as a regular tour player. And then we have a player that I like, but I don't like his behavior. You have to think about that. It's Nick Kyrgios. He had a solid performance against Steve Johnson. He served 24 aces, played good without being too much spectacular like he always do when he plays. He didn't put up much to a show this time. He did his job. He's gonna see how his draw will continue and his matches here. I really have high hopes this time from Nick Kyrgios. I'm not gonna say I have to see him in the quarterfinals, but at least the third or fourth round, it will be a good result for me. But even better if he can perform more, because he has the game. He has the game that many of these top players doesn't have. He just doesn't know how to use it on the right time. That's the problem with him. He can do it in 1 match, 2 matches, 3 matches, but then he does something that is very tragic to see in matches. He loses his focus, his temper, his concentration, and start to do bad things like argue with the umpire, with the crowd, smash rackets, just embarrassing himself. If he doesn't do that, he will probably go much deeper. I'm not gonna say he's gonna win, but deep quarterfinals, semifinals. And I hate when people compare him with John McEnroe. Yes, he was a little bit crazy, insane, but not that much. Yes, he has done some bad things, but McEnroe delivered on court. He won 7 Grand Slams. He won 77 single titles, 78 double titles in Grand Slam. McEnroe put his money where his mouth was. He delivered. So stop comparing Kyrgios to John McEnroe, please. Please, don't do that. Alright, my friends, this was my thoughts about the first round. I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care and bye-bye.